Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm thrilled you're here. I'm hoping my Wi-Fi works. It's been having a struggle, but it looks like it's doing well. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body-mind expert, and I'm a shiatsu massage therapist. And my specialty is helping women in narcissistic relationships, not necessarily getting my Wi-Fi sorted out. Anyways, we do these live streams daily. It's a great way to start the day, to get into a good mindset, and start to change how you look at the world, start to change how you think and how you interact, and the things that you do to take care of yourself. You're probably someone who struggles with being able to speak so that they're heard. You're probably somebody who is extremely compassionate and empathic and can see what's going on with other people when other people can't. These are traits, personality traits, of people who end up in narcissistic relationships. It's because we don't speak up for ourselves and we have a high level of compassion that we end up in situations where people take advantage of our kindness and take advantage of our lack of boundaries. And it's when we temper that kindness with wisdom, when we temper that kindness with experience, when we take good care of ourselves so that we're strong and healthy and not tired, and when we get good practice around finding our voice and developing our self-esteem, that's when things really start to change. When we take care of our health, when we get habits in place, when we get friends and family, when we start thinking in a different way, that's how you get yourself out of the hole of being in a relationship which is probably tearing you down pretty hard. It's how you find your feet and how you get strong. So today's topic is about, should you care about a narcissist's feelings? Well, that's been a question for debate, hasn't it? You've probably heard me talk before about there being a spectrum. And narcissists tend to be on either the far side of the right side of the spectrum or the far side of the left side of the spectrum. And the right side is where you have people who are who don't have as many feelings, who aren't as in touch with their reality, that they're more focused on their thought processes. Those narcissists are people who are kind of genetically wired that way. They have a very difficult time getting out of their own thoughts and seeing anybody else's perspective or point of view. They're usually engineers, airline pilots, scientists. They're highly intellectual, involved with computers. They're highly intellectual, but lack social skills. And so some people end up in relationship with narcissists that just don't care. They're just not really capable of caring. They're not malicious. They just don't care. And so you get to choose whether their feelings matter to you based on how much you want to give, because they're not going to have the same emotional reaction. They're not going to have the same connection, the same understanding, the same depth of love. In fact, people who are more on that side of the scale, the more difficult they struggle with it. Let's say they struggle with Asperger's or autism. They have their own version of care and love, which looks very different from yours. So keep that in mind. The other side of narcissism are narcissists who have mental health disorders, similar to borderline personality, similar to bipolar, ADD, ADHD. And much of their narcissism was developed from a sense of helplessness around how they feel. So they're helpless around their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions. They end up hijacked and trapped by them. And if they've lived a certain amount of life and had a certain number of experiences and add in some traumas, then they're a narcissist who has so much work that needs to be done that you have to decide whether they're willing to, whether they have the motivation to, and whether you want to be a part of it. Narcissists have a lot going on. They behave in a narcissistic way many times because this is how they interact with the world. This is where they're at. This is what they do. This is how they work. They stay fairly stable, and then something knocks them over, either a bad day or a weather change or traffic or you breathed wrong, and all of the stress that they've been controlling erupts out in some way, in punishment or anger or passive aggressiveness. There's this whole feeling of helplessness that they have, which then, in order to not feel helpless, they control the people around them as much as they can. It comes from a feeling of helplessness and a feeling of out of control. And the way they handle it is by controlling everything around them. That's kind of the other side of narcissism, the emotional, difficult side, which many women who are empathic end up in relationships with, because they're caring, they're understanding, they're supporting. They're the only person who's ever been there. Well, there's a reason that you're the only person who's ever been there for this person, because they're nearly impossible to have relationships with. You have to be almost like the perfect balance of not caring, of having other things in your life, in order to not let a narcissism's emotions derail you or affect your health or make you feel crazy or make you feel out of control because they feel so out of control. So you get to decide. You get to decide whether someone who struggles with these things has enough of a chance, and you're willing to stick with it long enough, and you're willing to get healthy the way that you need to get healthy. You're willing to do your work, which is one of the most important things that you can do. And whether they've got a good enough reason to want to evolve, to want to learn how to handle things better, to want to learn how to handle things in a way that isn't so destructive. Because the thing about narcissism, and the thing especially about something like borderline personality, which a lot of people suffer with, is that it's hard. It's dramatic for everybody involved. This isn't a simple fix. This isn't that they're mad at you and they're taking it out on you. This is they don't have good coping skills in order to deal with things, and this is where they're at. So they have to be motivated enough for whatever reason, and it's not going to be because they love you. They have to be motivated enough, either because of they have some sort of epiphany, some sort of connection with the spiritual oneness. It could be that their family is a higher priority. All sorts of things need to happen in order for a narcissist who's struggling with mental health in order to evolve. As women who've been in relationships for decades with narcissists will attest, they've tried everything, they've done everything, they've been everything, they've changed everything. It's a long uphill battle, and only if you feel it's worth it, if this is how you want to spend the next period of your life, helping someone who isn't necessarily willing to help themselves, then that's okay. I mean, these are directions we all go. I've done that for my father. I've done that for my friends. What you do is you learn how to set boundaries. You learn how to take care of your own emotional needs. You learn how to get the stability and the security and the love that you need in ways in your life that you don't need to get it from a narcissist. You work on detoxing your own wounds and getting these things out and moving them through you. These are the things when you start on that spiritual path that can, over the long term, create something amazing. But in the short term, this is your life, and you get to decide whether you want to spend it with someone who struggles and might not be willing to become someone that interacts with the world in a healthier way. You get to decide where you want to be. Do you want to put the work in? Or do you want to find someone who isn't so difficult to be in a relationship with, and then do healing work with them? Because people with narcissism really, really struggle, and it's a hard impact on the people around them. A very hard impact, especially if you grew up with it in some way in your life. And so you're going to have to work through those issues that came up, but you don't have to do it with the narcissist. You don't have to do it with someone who's got so much going on and is so unwilling to help themselves that it won't matter. You'll feel like you're wasting your life. Now, other times, you've been in the relationship for decades, you're not willing to leave. There's other reasons why you want to stay, and that's cool too, which means that you need to start getting healthy. You need to start becoming balanced, because they are not going to change for you. It's just not in their nature, and they don't even have the skills right now to do it. And they may look like they change or do things differently for other people or in new relationships, but it's not. They're always going to struggle with their emotional well-being and their emotional balance. They're always going to struggle with it. and they have to find really good reasons to want to evolve. Otherwise, it's so much easier just to get rid of the one and find somebody else. You know, they know how to get along, they know how to be nice, they know how to attract someone into their world, and look for someone with fewer boundaries than you, or who's not as healthy as you are. The focus of a narcissist really is on themselves and their experience and what they're going through. And they may care and be very loving, but many times they're hijacked by how they feel and by their patterns of behavior that you're going to end up collateral damage. You're going to end up the one who takes the brunt of it all, because they're handling their emotions by controlling and screaming at you. They're not handling it by learning meditation or taking better care of their, physical, mental, and emotional health. So, should you care about a narcissist's feelings? Depends upon whether it's worth it to you or not. And sometimes it may be, and sometimes it may not be. But you get to decide, because this really is your life at the end of the day. There's no magic pill or magic evolution. But when you do start to get your own needs met, you become much happier, more peaceful, things go more graceful, you see more miracles in your life, your intuition gets better, all of your other relationships get better, and you get to choose, okay? So the key isn't about changing the narcissist. The key is about healing yourself. And when you do that, narcissists, A, won't want to be in relationships with you, and B, the narcissists that are in relationships with you will start to behave differently because you're changing how you interact with them. So a long live stream today, but I hope it was super helpful, and I'm glad we finally got it off and running. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, okay? I'll talk to you later. Bye.